It is time now for the President's Address, and we have Professor Lakshman R. Watawala as Founder President, who is a past President of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka, a past President of the South Asian Federation of Accountants, and a founder signatory to the formation of SAFA in 1984. Is the founder president of AAT Sri Lanka, as well as a past president of the Organization of Professional Associations of Sri Lanka, as well as being founder president of the Institute of Chartered Professional Managers in Sri Lanka. He's also past president of the Association of Management Development Institutes of South Asia. He has also been former chairman and director general of the Board of Investment of Sri Lanka and the chairman of People's Bank. Professor Lakshman R. Watawala also received the national honor of Sri Lanka Sikh Harmony in 2019 and was installed in the Hall of Fame of the Institute of Chartered Accountants of Sri Lanka in 2013. In 2018, he was awarded the Lifetime Achievement Award by CMA Sri Lanka in recognition of the work he did and continues to do. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Lakshman R. Watawala.
Good evening to all of you. I think I have nothing to say. I think after our Founders' Day oration that was delivered by Mr. Supun Veerasinghe, who is the CEO and MD of Dialogue etc. Our Commissioner General of Inland Revenue, Mr. Hapu Arachi. We also have our, I think he's just gone off, I think we had the chairman of the Export Development Board, Dr. Kingsley Bernard, I think he's just gone. Our Vice President, Mr. Hennayaka Bandara. Our distinguished invitees, council members, members of CMA Sri Lanka, ladies and gentlemen. Today is indeed a day we are looking at our past because it's the Founders' Day, and let me thank all of you for your kind presence. I must especially say a word of thanks to Ms. Deepika Herat. Because you know, when we started the CMA Sri Lanka, it was not an easy thing. A lot of people were protesting. And the late Dr. G.C.B. Vijayasinghe, as you know, he was a past president of the Institute of Chartered Accountants. I also had a very close association with him. When he was president, I was his vice president. And he just told me, Lakshman, don't worry. You are a person who can make things happen. Please go ahead. I think those were the words of encouragement of your dad. I really appreciate. He was a real gentleman who said the right thing. And we can see that today, the CMA Sri Lanka, because I remember when I went to the Minister of Trade, the Honorable Kingsley Wickramaratne, I told him, sir, you have no way to give us any money, but you kindly give me a letter addressed to the High Commissioner of Canada asking them to support us. Because at that time I had forged the relationship with CMA Canada, and they were prepared to help us. Sometimes you might be wondering as to why I would have thought of linking up with CMA Canada, but we had a very strong party in Sri Lanka. It was the UK body, the SEMA. I myself a member of that body. I'm sure Mr. Supun is also a member and many others. And of course, at the time that I did the exam, they were the Institute of Cost and Works Accountants, ICWA. But thereafter they progressed, and finally, now they are chartered management accountants. So you can see that the management accounting profession is a growing field. And I was able to link up with Canada because I thought that if we did it maybe as a local body, as normally all of you would like to be associated with foreign people. Yes, we were associated with them, and only thing is that we did not do their foreign qualification here, but we did a local qualification. That was the great thing, because we wanted to make it a national body. We wanted to make it affordable to the local people in Sri Lanka, and also to give them a management accounting qualification, which most of the people, maybe the people who could afford, maybe I said that I did it, maybe I have been able to afford, but there are many more who were not able to afford it. So that was really the beginning. And when I went to see at that time it was the Canadian International Development Agency, one question they asked me, of course they wanted all details, and the final thing was, do you think that this will be a sustainable organization? Sustainability. Of course, fortunately for me, I had, of course, I could tell them I had given my figures, but in addition to that, I told them that I started the Association of Accounting Technicians of Sri Lanka without a single cent. Today you can see the success of it, where we were able to make it a successful organization. A lot of them don't know, so maybe we have written the history of CMA, so I think the president of AAT is here. He may able to write the history, but he must ask the right people to tell them what the history was. So this was really because I was the president of the Chartered Accountants, and I just want to tell you that at that time, the ADB wanted to maybe give the money to the government to start an organization. But I was able to convince, I think Mr. Gamini Fonseca is here. He was one of our founder council members, Mr. Gamini Fonseca. And of course, the chartered accountant said, they gave me the memorandum and articles and said, if you want, you can go and do anything with it. But they gave me a council. Mr. Gamini Fonseca was one. Mr. Pasupati, now he is in the UK. Mr. Dr. Aryadasa. Before that, of course, Mr. Dalan Tharamaratnam. So all were really people who said that we must do this. We must get this started. Then I think the OPA president is here. Has he gone? No, she is here, yeah. You may not know, but you were also really a party that helped to maybe start the AAT at the initial stages, because at that time I was also part of the OPA. Mr. Manoharan, he's a chartered accountant, a very good friend of mine, past president of the OPA. At that time, we had formed what was called the OPA, the overseas chapter, not overseas chapter. It was really for setting up of international projects. It was done with the EDB support, and they had office. So he told me, don't worry, I'll give you a small room. So that was how we started, So he gave us the room, and then we were able to start. And that sustainability was there at that time, because even the AAT, we were not frightened to start, because we knew that it will be a sustainable organization. Then what we did, we prepared the syllabus. I think Mr. Aridasa, Mr. Gamini Fonseca is here. They all put their heads together, and then we had to put only one advertisement calling for students to register. And you may be surprised, 1,500 students registered. So that's because we were a non-profit making, but a free-living organization. So that helped us to bring the money, and thereafter, of course, all the buildings, everything, that was all our own sweat, all our hard work we put in, and these things came in. You see, this is really something which the government started in 1959. when the Institute of Chartered Accountants was formed, at that time they had a big, maybe a commission or a report, LM De Silva report, and they said that this could be done, but it's not going to be controlled by the government. It's not going to be government funded, but we will support you. We will have a separate act. And what did they say? You are non-profit making, we will not tax you, but you have to be sustainable. You have to, maybe we will give you the initial support. I think they gave the land at Longdon Place, maybe the building at the initial stages, but thereafter we were fee levying. We had to charge a small fee from the students, and then that enabled us to go. Because I am telling this because today the government is broke. They have no money. So this is something they started in 1959. But they really forgot about that. After that, say, Okkoma Nikan. All free, all free. Ultimately, this is the situation of our country. But if they followed the principle of setting up the chartered accountants, Mr. Manilja Singh is also here, past president, and some of the others who are maybe leading members of the chartered body. I think the vice president is here. But this is something that we must tell the government, you know. You have made a success of the chartered accountants, a non-profit making institution, you charge a fee and you are able to carry on. You see, people in this country are prepared to pay for education. Although there are some people who protest and do various things, if you go to the passport office, 50% of those people who are like in that queue are people who want to go overseas. Why? Because of the problems here in this country. So I think this is something that they may now put it into action. I think if they give the autonomy to all the universities, I think we have Senior Professor Kennedy Gunawanda here, they will tell how these can be run, you know, how these can be run profitably, how they can really serve this country. So we now have to really think in a new way. Because what our orator, Mr. Supun mentioned about the strategy, how the dialogue has been running. I think the Director General of the BOI is also here, because actually it was in 1991. I was then the chairman of the Greater Colombo Economic Commission. Later we transferred me to the Board of Investment because we want to take out the projects to that. At that time, you know, before, when it was GCEC, we were only promoting export industries. Only exports were done. No infrastructure, no telecommunication, nothing. But there we started. So that was really the start. I remember even signing the agreements for these projects, all these telecommunication projects. And you can see the transformation that took place in this country. As a result of what Dialogue has done, you see everyone has a phone in their hand. Those days you had to go to the MP and get a letter to get a phone. I know that the SLT officials are also here, but that was the situation. But that was really changed as a result of this massive drive on the mobile phones that was started. I remember the first mobile phone, it was a big one, you know, not the small ones that you have. I remember Singtel, that was approved by the BOI, they are coming and showing me their phone. So that's the type of investment that should be made in this country to revolutionize the whole thing, to make it available to everyone. And also it should benefit the country, the people. Even the e-education can be done using these phones. So I really appreciate, because I think also, I don't know, those days we were looking for foreign investment, it was not very easy to come, you know. And at one time, the biggest investor, of course, Dialogue was the local one, but they, as he said, they were borrowing in dollars. So we had to call it foreign direct investment, and the biggest investor for the BOI was Dialogue, because they were coming in very large amounts of using the foreign exchange. So you can see that at that time, how we utilized all these things, how it benefited the country. So I think a drastic change has taken place. Now what Mr. Supun mentioned today is something that is really, we are all, I think, from the private sector, but I think our Commissioner General was here, I think Chairman EDB, he is also from the private sector, but you can see as to how transformation can take place in the private sector. But unfortunately, this transformation is not that easy in the public sector. So that's a major problem that we are having. I know the big tasks that have been given to the Commissioner General of Indian Revenue to increase and charge taxes. Even our CMA name was also recently gazetted. The chartered accountants, the certified management accountants, that all of them must now pay taxes. I think all those who are employed are paying taxes. Not that they are not paying taxes, but there may be some who are doing their own business who may not be doing that. So I don't know whether they can gazette all the companies registered with the register of companies. If they gazette all those people, then I think they can get a bigger income, because a lot of them are not maybe paying, or we don't know, but actually if you bring them also into the list, I am just suggesting to the Commissioner General, the big business people, of course the quoted companies, they have to pay their taxes, otherwise they can't survive, but there are so many who are not. Actually the listed companies are only 250 or 300. All the others are unlisted companies. So say they have 30,000-40,000 companies. So if you gazette all those, or if you tell that all companies that are registered with the register of companies, then have to pay tax, then I suppose it may not be too difficult. But my worry is, you see, we are a cost and management accounting institution. That is, we are really worried about the cost. Now government has increased its revenue, then government must cut down its expenditure also, no? If government is going to increase revenue, if you are going to increase your expenditure, how are you going to have a surplus? You ask any of these gentlemen who are here, who are leading companies, can you ever run with a deficit? Who is the one who is going to give you the money? In the case of the government, they have borrowed. Now you see, you can see, because they have borrowed, the whole country is in problem. We have all become debtors. We have all become beggars. That is what has happened. You see, we can't even go out and face our friends outside because of this current situation that we are in. So I think this lecture that was done, we have recorded it. I think we will make it available free to all the public servants for them to listen how they can transform themselves. You see, 1.6 million public servants. Those days we had what is called the civil service, the best people in this country. Now these are the mistakes that are made by this country. The civil service, you transferred, of course, to maybe the public service, but who took the power? The public service power was taken over by the politicians. So how do you run a country? So these are the basic problems that have been done. In education, they did the same thing. Because you see, you must compare ourselves with India, our neighboring country. They have a parliament, lower parliament, they had the Senate. Our people did away with that. They are still running with the same constitution, our people changed the constitution. Then the public service, again did away with the public service. So these are, then English language, that also they did away with. Now see what damage that has done to this country. So actually the people, it is not the wishes of the people. It is the wishes of some few people who were brought. So what we are saying is, in 48, when the British handed over Sri Lanka, they should have said, you should be a sustainable country. Same question that was asked when we are going to set up a project. But did that happen? No. So I think these are all mistakes that are done. All the constitutions have been changed for the benefit of the politicians, not the people of this country. Now, even as accountants, we are members of the International Federation of Accountants. What do they say? You are working for the public interest. I am not a politician, but we have to work for the public interest. Now, recently, our Cost and Management Accounting Institution, we put out what is called the societal cost. Societal cost is what you know is the cost that is paid by the society. I can just take one example. If you take the power sector, the price was increased in order that they can become profitable. Okay, that they have done so that they could get the loan from the international IMF. But you know that can you pass over inefficiencies, the operational inefficiency of cost and all the expenditure, maybe excess staff, can the society pay all those costs? So that is the wrong thing. So IMF must know that how they can tell that you can increase the price, but you have to make them efficient, you have to make them productive, and ensure that everyone is working in that. That's why cost accounting is required. Now you see, you must make cost accounting records. Does any of these institutions have that? Now Mr. Jivananda is here, Additional Secretary on the Ministry of Trade. All of a sudden we find headlines, Minister reduces the price by 14% or 15%. That is not the case. You must have a cost record, and then that you can show it to the authority and say, okay, this is the price. Even if in the transport sector, whatever sector, no one is having any records. You see, in India, they are very strict. By legislation, they have said you must maintain cost records. If you take the power sector, every power plant, they will have to maintain the cost records. That will give all the details of the costs that they have incurred. Then they have to do a cost audit to see whether what they have done is right. Now, these are the things that this country has to do if we are really going to do it. We can't just say, of course, depreciation was there, then the price went down. Now they say they reduced the currency has now appreciated. Where is the price reduction? But to get the price reduction, you must have a cost record. Without a record, so government must gazette that. Every institution must maintain cost records. And then either they have to be audited by someone to ensure that the cost is correct. So these is actually what Mr. Supun mentioned in the strategic plan, strategic action. Now you see, one thing I will tell you now, you see, they were borrowing in US dollars. You see, they were running their business very well. But if the government doesn't manage themselves properly, see what will happen. 30 million or billion, I don't know. 30 billion. 30 billion loss. So who is responsible for that loss? Are they responsible? No. From outside, these losses happen. So that's why I think we really have to take private sector might be the best. You have your quoted companies. Now we have even what is called the CMA Excellence in Integrated Reporting Awards. It's not only the profit. We take what is called value creation. What I would like to tell the government is, every ministry, you find out what is the value they are creating for the input they are putting. What is the value they are creating? If I ask the Commissioner General of Inland Revenue value creation, he will say, this is the amount of taxes I collect. If that is below par, then that's a different thing. But if it is more, then how many other ministries, all these monies that are going, what is the value they are creating? If there is no value, then what is the purpose? You are looking at public interest. So that's why this cost and management accounting is very essential. And we formed it, and we are, although we have now set up what is called the Cost and Management Accounting Standards Board, and we are trying to work out all this, but these are simple solutions which have to be done. For us to be successful, we need the support of the government to implement these things. I can just tell you that even cabinet decisions are not carried out in this country. We had a cabinet decision in 2014 that our qualification should be included for recruitment of government accountants. You know how long it took? It took 7 years for me, after chasing behind all these people, to get it included in the government gazette. So you can see, with that sort of thing, even politicians are not able to do anything, because the public service has to be able to carry this out. Because you see, one of the reasons I see that, you see, you must have many accountants, chartered accountants, management accountants, at the lower grade accounting technicians. Now all these three bodies are there in Sri Lanka, you know. They are recognized by the International Federation of Accountants, the global body for the accounting profession. But government is not recognizing. Government is not recruiting them. So what has happened? You see, all our money has to be controlled. Every department must have a financial director. Every place must have qualified accountants. But are they having that? You ask for the accounts, accounts are not prepared. So I think these are not very, very big things have to be done. These are very simple things. Like the gazette you put to collect the taxes, you gazette all these things. You give the accounts by this date. If you don't give, then finish. But if you have your friends who are managing those, then you can't do that, no. You must have professional people. Our country has come to a stage that we have to tell this. Because if we don't tell this, who else is going to tell? You see, at this stage, these have to be corrected. That is why I am telling this, because today we have listened to a very excellent oration. But these now have to be put into action, no? So I think time has come that we don't have to protest on the roads, but we have to put these ideas into action. And see, because I am just saying, because Commissioner General is also here, he might be able to help us in this. I don't know whether any others are there, but I must thank him for coming, you know, because yesterday also I met him and he said that he will come. I really appreciate your presence. But the thing is, the government is not doing anything. Now, I can see the Director General of the BOI. Now, you know that it is because of the BOI that this country is earning foreign exchange. Do you know that how we did the 200 garment factory? You were there. You see, if we did not set up the 200 garment factory, this government would have not had any foreign exchange. In 1991, I think DG Miss Renuka Virakon is there. She has come, I think, to listen to Mr. Supun's speech, but not my speech, what I am saying. But I am telling you, it was really the BOI that, you see, we went throughout the country. Today they are talking of one-stop shop. At that time, we were able to operate. If they want to know how to operate one-stop shop, if they come and ask me, I'll tell them how it has to be done. You see, without authority, you can't do, no. Now, today in this country, no accountability, no. Even if you smuggle gold or anything, no accountability. Then they say government servant has not done the proper job. You have not done the proper valuation. Why should you act on others? That is correct. Government servants have to take this into action, you know. If they are going to do everything what the politicians say, this country is already ruined, it will get further ruined. So that's what I say, cost and management accounting is very, actually when you say accounting, the management part is very important. There is no management. If there is no management, we are all really sunk in this whole thing. Management in accounting will really enable us to do, because I am telling this because I also ran corporations. I sacrificed my life, 20 years of good part of my life sacrificed to build the private sector and the government sector. Ultimately, see what has happened. That's why I am hurt. We sacrificed to build, but certain people after that have destroyed this whole nation. So I think we need to take corrective action. We have very senior people. Mr. Mahendra Amarsuri is here. He will know. He has run banks. He has run big major companies. They will know how they have run those, you know. So that's why, in fact, once we were there, I think he should remember, we were asked to, I think the minister at that time said, he invited some private sector people and public sector people, and we were supposed to monitor all these corporations, their projects. Because ultimately what we found was the final person who was responsible for the whole thing, for not giving the money and delaying everything, was the finance ministry. But all the other ministries, we found that they were able to do and gave everything, and everything improved day by day. You know? So this sort of monitoring is not there now. Monitoring has to be done, and that's, I think, something that we learn in accounting. But accountability is also essential. Of course, they talk of governance, all these things. So anyway, let me thank everyone. because this body has been formed. I must thank all our council members, Mr. Hennaka Bandara, because you see, we also came to the limelight in the South Asian region, where we had the presidency of the South Asian Federation, and we nominated Mr. Hennaka Bandara. So last year, he was there. So we are gradually coming up, and we are trying to do a service to everyone. So I'm indeed thankful to Mr. Supun Veerasinghe, because he accepted our invitation. He is not a person who will want to throw his weight, but he really is one of the biggest companies in this country. As I told you, everyone will have a mobile phone, so always you speak of dialogue. But it's not only in Colombo, in the rural areas, all areas, they really revolutionize the telephone industry in this country. So that's something, and similarly, you will have to think of the other industries whether they can do the same thing. If you privatize and if you find that the price is going to be higher than what the government is going to do, then you are going to run into a problem. Maybe the electricity sector, because you see, actually I have done some work on this, because on the costing side, the private producers who are giving power to the electricity board, everyone is making profit. No one is making a loss. But the man who makes a loss is the Ceylon Electricity Board. But then, you see, this is what I'm saying. So if you privatize, and if you look at that policy, all of you are going to get sunk, We will destroy the whole process, Because, you see, I remember when I was chairman of the People's Bank, the biggest profit-making institution was the Ceylon Electricity Board. They had the largest deposits. You know why? The raw material was water. They got it free. Then what happened? They went to fuel, and then only all this jugglery started. The high prices they were paying. So today, whatever high prices they are paying, they are subsidizing from the hydropower, 2 rupees and 50 cents. Whereas coal is some 950, the fuel is maybe 39.40, depending on the fuel price. So that's how things are working. If we have more rain, we will have more hydropower. So we are on luck by chance. That is how we are working. So that's how people really don't understand this. They are talking of privatization, everything. But ultimately, it should benefit. It should be in the public interest, not into the private interest, but public interest. So that's what the cost and management accounting profession is doing. And today this talk that was given is really of great essence of how to plan both short term and long term, the strategic area and the operational area. So I think that was of great importance to all of us, but I think we have to now ensure that it will go to the areas that it is required. So thank you very much everyone for your kind participation. We are having some refreshments after this function, so I do hope that we can meet with you and then have a little more conversation. I'm sure Mr. Supun was saying that he would like to meet with everyone to find out the ideas and how it could be done. But I should say that this oration that we have been doing is something that has really helped us. We did not get a politician to come and speak, but we got someone that would give essence to the people of this country, essence to the private sector, essence to the public sector. I think that's the way that we need to think, and if we think in that direction, I'm sure Sri Lanka would be able to overcome all these problems, and then we will all be able to go into prosperity. Thank you, and all the very best to you.